Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about strafing, and I really just want to cover the main things that I've been learning as I've been working on getting better at strafing in the game. So we're going to cover three main types of strafing: crouch strafing, jump strafing, and tap strafing. I'm going to say the word strafing too much in this video, but we're going to work on this together. As usual, if I make mistakes, if you have some advice, leave it in the comments down below. If you watch the video, I appreciate it. First things first, when it comes to facing against what is currently forming as the meta, which to me seems to be semi-automatic and slow-firing weapons, the LH1, the Titan, as well as, of course, the Repeater, which is very strong right now. I think that crouch strafing is your most effective option, and I'll get into a little bit of reasoning on this. Essentially, a lot of these weapons require you to hit headshots to get an optimal TTK, particularly thinking of things like the LH1. Because of that, crouch strafing can make it a lot harder for your opponent to hit you, because usually they'll be aiming for your head, either letting their recoil ride up to a headshot, or in the case of people like the Repeater, a lot of times they're going to be flicking towards your head to try and hit you in the head. It's also worth noting, for some reason, I just find spam crouch strafing works. I know it really shouldn't, because when you think about it, most players who use like a Repeater, or especially fully automatic guns like the new P90, they just kind of aim for your center mass at the lower end of the skill level or in general matchmaking. But it doesn't matter. Every time I spam crouch strafing and go a little left to right, people miss all their shots on me, like they can't aim. I don't know what it's doing, but it works, so I can recommend spam crouch strafing just a little bit. Now for the rest of the audience, the ones who don't have scuffs, the ones who don't have really weird controller binds like setting up your R3 as your crouch button, everyone else looks to things like jump strafing.
He's on the other side of that door.
Oh, I'm missing all my shots on him and he's missing all his shots on me, that's good. Jump strafing is kind of unique in the finals, and there's a couple reasons why. Now, it has a pretty similar system to other games you may have played like Call of Duty, where they try and slow down your movement by reducing the amount of momentum you keep with each jump you make. So you can't jump like 5 times in a row and keep the same height. If you jump like 2 or 3 times, after your third jump, you're pretty much jumping like a few inches off the ground. On the other hand, unlike a game like Call of Duty, more like maybe Apex Legends, though it's been a little while since I've played, so don't quote me on this, you can build up a lot of momentum and maintain momentum in the finals really well. For example, if you just slide down a kind of steep hill and then start jumping at the base of that hill in the right cadence, you'll maintain your momentum through those jumps really well, at least for the first, again, like 2 or 3 jumps, until you stop building up enough height to continue to maintain your momentum. Even things like dashing and something as simple as sliding and then jumping can help you build up some speed to get some decent left to right movement. With that, I have noticed lately that dashing seems a little less consistent for me, essentially ever since they made the change to make it so that when you jump and dash at the same time, you don't super dash. Kind of wish we could have that back, by the way. But ever since they made those changes, I've noticed that I can't effectively jump after dashing and maintain my momentum as well. It kind of feels like I only get like 1 or 2 jumps instead of the usual 2 to 3. If that's just a me thing, if you're not noticing that, let me know. That being said, jump strafing works really well when you build up a lot of speed, or if you are surprising your opponent and they need to do a rapid, turn to try and hit you, and then by the time they've turned to see where they've been shot from, you've moved past that point. Things like that, it works really well. On the other hand, it does engage aim smoothing. Now, if you're not familiar, aim smoothing is when you aim smoothly in a singular direction, you will reduce the felt recoil or perceived recoil of your weapon. I should note it's perceived or felt is kind of wrong. It's more like the actual recoil of the weapon, as you can see in the footage in the background. Now, don't get scared. There's a way to counter this. We're going to go over that in a second. But in the meantime, just know that you can engage this by being really good at smoothly controlling your aim. You don't really need to move a great deal. If you just put some left movement or counter strafe your opponents, like if they're moving right, you move left, that's enough to engage aim smoothing. So you don't need a ton of movement. It just needs to be in a smooth singular direction. When you start moving left to right with your right stick or your mouse, it kind of messes it up a little bit. The reason this is all a problem is because when you're jumping and trying to maintain momentum, you're of course moving in a singular direction. And you make it easy for your opponents to engage aim smoothing, and when you're playing against someone, particularly controller players, they have aim assist to help pull them along. Now, whether that makes it easier or harder than PC isn't really relevant. I get smacked around by both M and K and controller players all the motherfucking time. Both of them have it too easy, if you ask me. That being said, and moving on, it's there, and it's annoying. It's annoying. Sorry. Moving on from that rant. Because you can aim with your mouse or right thumbstick, it's kind of easy to hit targets when there's no recoil involved. As a result, aim smoothing is something that a lot of the best players in the game are trying to engage all the time. They're trying to use that in every gunfight they get into as often as they can. Of course, if you've memorized the recoil patterns, you can, and you've got like 40 spare hours a week to focus on doing that, you could just do that too. That's no problem. Moving on from jump strafing, which I have no problem with, the OG, what we're all used to, tap strafing, or just moving left to right in general. PC players are going to be tap strafing because they have A and D and they can move left to right really quickly. If you're on controller, you can mimic this to some degree by turning on your auto sprint, and then go ahead and turn your auto sprint delay down to 0, and turn your left stick minimum dead zone down to 0 as well. That will essentially give you a little stick drift, and you'll constantly be sprinting in some direction. Now, the stick drift kind of sucks when you're sitting on a ledge, but it makes up for it by allowing you to move left to right really quickly. So sort of a trade-off to think about and see if that's something you're interested in, maybe give it a try. Either way, strafing left to right is basically the oldest and most effective way to strafe. I mean, you're talking about breaking someone's aim smoothing if you do it correctly, which increases their recoil. You're also harder to hit both in the head and the body. The problem with this is that it is somewhat predictable. You can only move left or right, and if your opponent is smart and has good aim, they will move and counter you. It's also worth noting that the game doesn't have the fastest strafing for some characters. Lights do move quite quickly when they're strafing and hip firing. Mediums and heavies not so much, particularly heavies not really at all. So you need to be a little more creative in how you strafe, and I think a great example of this is I was watching some scrims a while back, and I saw Normalize, who was tap strafing perfectly on top of a cash out box, and he was going to the very edge of the cash out box to the left and right side. He was moving so perfectly that it was really hard for his opponents to hit him because they kept having to move and adjust slightly to the left and slightly to the right with their mouse or right stick. I'm just going to start referencing it as the mouse because that's going to make things so much easier for me. Either way, this brings up something that I do incorrectly when I'm tap strafing a lot, and that is I don't move enough left to right. So if you notice that you're getting hit really easily when you're tap strafing without crouching or jumping, just simply strafing left to right, try strafing a little longer. Now on the other hand, if you notice you're getting hit in the head a lot, and you notice you're already moving left to right a lot, you might be moving too far left to right, because as mentioned, you do not want to make it too easy by just simply moving in one direction for too long, that your opponents know what you're doing, it becomes predictable. And overall, I think the biggest thing when it comes to strafing is to not become predictable. Make sure that you throw in jump strafing, crouch strafing, simple tap strafing. Every gunfight you get into, try and strafe with as many different methods as you can so that your opponents don't know what's coming. Of course, this can be really hard because you want to be good at one type of strafing, and a lot of people are only good at like one or two types of strafing. They're not as good at aiming in all three types. Or you're using a gun that isn't, like the LH1 and the repeater have really bad inner accuracy, so jump strafing with them really sucks. And on the other hand, you might have a gun like the P90 that's really good at jump strafing, but it has really poor range, so tap strafing in mid-range really doesn't mean anything to it. You have to be running up close to your opponent and making sure that you're sliding, jumping, crouching. That is another note. When you're in close range, I do generally recommend bigger movements. So if I am right up on an opponent, I might do a slide into a jump, rather than what I would normally do at mid to long range, which is more of just tapping left to right. Overall though, this video is already getting too long. That is everything I have for you guys here today. Go out, take these things, be better at the game, win your ranked matches, and get the damn Diamond P90.